Ravotai, Erev Shabbat Shalom. This Shabbat, unfortunately, a little far away, but I was hoping to share something with you in the parasha, something very, very central to our life, and definitely this time, this period of the year, leading up to the 3 weeks, and then coming up to Elul soon. One of the main questions of parasha has to be the question on the whole idea of Bilam. Bilam, Rashi writes, Hashem sent the nations a prophet like Moshe, like Pasuk says, Lo kam b'nei Yisrael Moshe kenavi. The Jews had no prophet as great as Moshe Rabbeinu ever. But among the non-Jews, there is one prophet that's going to be comparable to Bilam, to Moshe Rabbeinu alav shalom. Who is that? Bilam. Bilam's prophecy also, on some levels, like Aspakla Meira, is going to be as clear, as great as Moshe Rabbeinu's prophecy. Why is that? The Midrash says the reason is so the non-Jews don't have a complaint against God. They shouldn't be able to tell Hakadosh Baruch Hu, Hashem, if only you had sent us someone like Moshe, then we too could have accepted the Torah, done teshuvah, been like Am Yisrael. We could have been your chosen nation. You know why we were not? Why did we not accept the Torah? Because we did not have a prophet like Moshe Rabbeinu. Says HaKadosh Baruch Hu, to counteract that claim before it's made, I will send the Jewish people a prophet. A prophet is just as great as Moshe Rabbeinu, and they'll see that they will not do what they're supposed to do, despite having that prophet, and that way it counteracts the claim of, see, they would never do teshuvah, even if they're given the choice. The obvious question is that it doesn't seem to be comparable. It could be Bilam had unbelievable nevuah, prophecy, clear messages from God, but he used them for one reason only. He had ayin rechava, all he had is he wanted to take for himself. Ta'ava, kavod, he looked just for money. He would take money for his blessings, for his curses. He would only look at people's future and predict it only if they would pay him, give him kavod. And Phyllis Ta'ava, his desires was the lowest of things, even as an animal. So that was the prophet they were given. He was nothing like a prophet like Moshe, who uses nevuah, and he was sent by Hashem to bring Am Yisrael to Teshuvah. Even before he was sent, he was already helping in Mitzrayim, helping Jewish people do their best, give them the day of Shabbat off. How can you compare Moshe and Bilam? How is sending Bilam to the non-Jews an answer somehow as to what they would have done had they been given Moshe Rabbeinu? The answer is a famous answer, but one which you have to really take to heart, which is from the Haflah, Chatam Sofer, his Talmud writes, which is that we sometimes misunderstand the role of a leader in a nation. Sometimes we think Hashem happens to send great people in this generation, that generation, and lucky them that they have this leader and that leader. And were not for them, or for this incredible leader they had, then they would have, struggled mightily. But Baruch Hashem, they had this leader who took them out. So it's not really how it works. There's a famous midrash, one of these very, very interesting midrashim. But Rabbi Kiva was teaching a class. This, for any teacher, whoever feels bad, people sometimes are falling asleep. So Rabbi Kiva was teaching, his Talmidim were falling asleep. And what does he do to counteract that? He tells them something that makes no sense. He tells them in Mitzrayim there was one woman who gave birth to 600,000 children. Obviously, the Talmidim, as somewhere within the dreams, they hear these words and they wake up and say, Rabbi, that can't be true. There's no way one woman could give birth to 600,000 children in one go. That just is not physically possible. Says Rabbi Kiva, of course, you're correct. I'm just waking you up. But what did I mean? I meant there was a woman, Yocheved, who gave birth to a boy who was shakul. He was as worthy, equal in value as all 600,000 Jews, the men who left Egypt. Now, what does that mean? So, when it says Moshe Rabbeinu was as valuable, as worth as much as them, it means that Moshe could only be as great as the people. Now, what happens is often people, most of us as many layers, covering up our real greatness. Like we said, the Malachim, when we left Egypt, they saw the Jews in Yam Suf, and the Malachim said, both of these idol worshippers, what's the difference between a Jew and a non-Jew, the Egyptians and the Jews? But the truth is, they only saw superficially. The truth is, the Jews then had a deep greatness to them. They had a Mesirut Nefesh to them. They kept the Jewish names. They did not intermarry the non-Jews. There was a depth of greatness to Am Yisrael. Then Mesirut Nefesh, they were willing to give up their lives. How much could a Jew have gained, a Jewish woman have gained by gaining favor of an Egyptian, by being with him? And they were Nefesh just to remain a pure Jewish people, to one day leave Egypt and be Am Hashem. That greatness is a manifest Moshe Rabbeinu. That's how they could have Moshe Rabbeinu leader, would be the ultimate Mosar Nefesh, ultimately the ultimate be willing to give up of his own nefesh, his own life for Am Yisrael. Time and time again, it's Mechayna Misafrecha, told Hashem, I'd rather die than let the Jewish people die. And that greatness came from the Jewish people. It wasn't just happens to be that Moshe Rabbeinu was born from nowhere, just in a vacuum, to say Am Yisrael. He reflected the greatness of Am Yisrael, and it was just concentrated all in one person. That's how he showed. Bilam was the opposite. Bilam showed the essence of a guy who's Avad Kochavim, who serves idols, an idol worshipper. The Gemara says in Rosh Hashanah Dalet, talks about, it says a contradiction. It says some people, when they do a mitzvah, they give tzedakah for a zechut, for a refuah shelema. It's not a good thing. It's not any great mitzvah whatsoever. And the Gemara quotes another opinion that it is a mitzvah. The Gemara answers a contradiction. It says it actually depends who's giving it. It says if it's by a Jew, it says a real Jew, he gives tzedakah to his, let's say, someone has a refuah, a relative of his has a refuah shelema. That's true. But what happens, chas shalom, that relative does not have a refuah shelema? How does a Jew react? A Jew says, Baruch Hashem, at least I gave that tzedakah. Ultimately, I want to help other people. I want to do the right thing. And if I didn't get the refuah, no. But at least I did the right thing, which I always wanted to do. Says the Gemara, that's true. But by an idol worshipper, a guy who's an idol worshipper, he's the opposite. Why does he do his mitzvah, whatever thing gives him a zechut? For one reason only. For him to get what he wants. If he doesn't get what he wants, he create a God. It's going to say, it's not fair. I want to take it back. I would never have given the tzedakah had I known it wouldn't give me the thing I wanted in the end. Which means it's not worth it, and I would rather not have done it at all. And that's really what lies at the root of Bilam Arasha. That root of Oved Kochavim, idol worshipper, purely focused on himself, focused on what he has to gain from any action. That's what Bilam comes out of. That's his essence. Because it says, I was given nevuah. What do I do with it? How can I gain from it? What can I do to get out of it? How can people give me kavod? How can people give me money? That's the midah of Bilam, and that's what he took as a reflection of what's the midah of the people around him, the Kochavim at that time. And that's really the main thing to focus on, especially moving on now. It's going to be the 3 weeks starting, unless we fix this before Tuesday. There'll be a fast on the Shiva Tammuz starting on Tuesday. We have to focus on fixing this more than anything else. Fixing this midah, the main midah that makes a Jew a Jew. The midah that means that focusing on the fact that we want to do L'Shem Shamayim, we want to do the right thing for the sake of doing the right thing, we want to help other people for the sake of helping other people. And the fact that, yes, some things have a side benefit, we also benefit from it, that's great. But why? What's the center of the Jew? What's our real core? Focus on our core and get through all the layers to unpeel that core that came to us from Avraham Avinu. The more we do, the more we can focus on who is our real self, what's our most important thing in our lives. Hashem should be zocher that already this Tuesday should be nefach miyagon simcha. We should be all taniyot should change from being days of sorrow to days of joy. But Hashem, we should be zocher to the Gula Imra Amenu. Amen.